Hey, y'all. I am, of course, super excited to introduce my next guest. And this is a repeat offender here that we have today from Canva. I have the wonderful Scott Nunes. He is the district engagement advocate for Canva, and we've had him on before. He's got the inside scoop, and there have been some big updates and some really cool stuff that everybody wants to know about. So Scott's going to give me all the details. He's also going to answer some of my most annoying questions today. So thank you, Scott, for joining me. It is so good to see your smiling face.
Oh, so good to be back, Casey. I love being a repeat offender for all things Canva, all things good in ed tech. And I'm excited to see what you think about these updates. Same with your audience. And, follow me on social media at Mr. Nunes Teach and follow Canva on Twitter, X, at Canva EDU and on Instagram at Canva.
Well, and we have to give you a moment here to give a little bit of background here in case someone has missed the other episodes and other things that you have shared. You are an educator that I've known for many years before you even worked for Canva, and a fellow podcaster as well. So tell everybody a little bit about your background so they know you know your stuff. You don't just know your Canva stuff, but you know your teacher stuff.
Yeah. I'll go back a little bit. So I got my start in education. Before that, I was a graphic designer. So I came with that kind of heavy tech, heavy interest in tech background, became an ELA teacher, and then played to my strengths. Listening to folks like Catlin Tucker, I learned how to get my life back with technology, using tools like Canva that would really um, enhance what I'm already doing, right? It's not going to replace me, but it's going to enhance the things. And so it used to take me 18 hours to grade an essay or a set of essays for my 150 students. Then I got it down to like 4 hours and 2 hours and really got my life back and could reinvest that in developing quality lessons and increasing student interest and student outcomes. And I got into instructional technology as a result, became a tech coach, helped build a virtual school in Northern California, helped them build out their STEAM program, and they ended up being one of ISTE's distinguished districts of the year in years past, not too long ago, a couple years, I think. And now I'm with Canva, and I've been here almost 3 years, a little over two and a half, and I love it. Still in it to win it, still doing podcasting, staying true to my roots. Um, all about K-12 because educators have the biggest hearts.
Oh, well, I love your story, and you are such a big-hearted guy. I've known that from the beginning. We were connected online. We finally got to meet in person several years back. I can't believe how many years back. It's probably at least 4 or 5 years ago
Yeah.
at ISTE. And I'm sure those of you listening, if you were at ISTE, you probably saw this guy floating around somewhere. He's got his I'm calling him ZZ Top now with his beard, but he is always full of energy and heart and some great tips too. So today Scott is going to share with us a little bit about what's been going on at Canva, because there was this big conference. Canva is called Canva Create, right?
Yeah. Canva
And
Create.
lots of updates that were dropping. And he's like, hang on, Casey, there's some stuff coming that's just for education. I was like, I've got to have you back. So Scott's going to share with us some super cool stuff that's happening. And if you're not already a Canva user, canva.com/education, go get your education account. It is free. And then go tell your administrators you want to get it for your school and reach out to Scott. And we'll
Yeah.
talk more about that at the end. But just in case we have some newbies, I thought we better explain what we're talking about.
No, that's great. I really appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, definitely. If your school or district does not have Canva for districts yet, bring them over. It's the most robust version with COPA FERPA compliance, and it's designed for educators and all staff, all students. within the district. It's not a heavy lift on the back end. Your IT folks can set up in like 30, 45 minutes. You get to work with somebody great like me on the district engagement advocate team. We're all super passionate about education. Most of us have some background in education prior. So everyone has skin in the game. They're in it to win it. And we want to help you do what you do best, which is teach and support students and your adjacent communities.
Awesome.
So
So tell us what's been going on. Share some of
I
these
gotcha.
updates with us.
Yeah, just in time. So what's new in Canva? Sadly, I can't share everything because there's so much. Across everything we offer, there's about 101 new updates across all the
Wow.
product offerings. So I've selected the best of the best and probably the most applicable for EDU that folks may not know about. And so this is stuff that maybe wasn't plastered all over social media. I haven't seen a lot of traction on, but a game changer. So we'll get right into it. And here's a little sneak peek. So a lot of this stuff dropped around July 8th. And so if you experienced a change in your user interface, we call it the glow up, a different look on your homepage. That's what that's about. So if you're a Canva for district user, you will have experienced that change. If you have an individual account, like a pro account or just the individual educator account, you may not have that glow up yet, but it will be coming. So everyone will eventually get that. If your screen doesn't look exactly like mine when I'm presenting things live in product, that's why. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit, and then Casey, I'm going to put you on the spot. We're actually going to do an activity live with this, so
Uh-oh.
get ready. So one thing you can do, we have Canva whiteboards, great alternative to things like a Jamboard. So if you were a Jamboard diehard, guess what? Not only do I have a replacement tool for you, but you can do a little bit more. And so we're going to work through that to kind of set the stage. What you can do is you can have these stickies or sticky notes on there, and you can work collaboratively within a team and sort of break up duties based upon uh, topic by color. So you want to be hyper organized and you're like, okay, everybody who's doing, let's say you're doing a grade alike or a PLC, and like, okay, everybody that's going to work on the revamp of the Shakespeare units. Okay, you're going to be blue. Everybody who's working on futuristic short stories, like Ray Bradbury. Okay, you're going to be blue, so on and so forth. Or it can be based upon name. So, okay, wherever it says Casey, this is going to be linked up with Casey. Wherever it says Scott, these sticky notes are going to go with Scott. So I'm going to create a whiteboard in just a moment here, pop out of the presentation. I'm going to share that link with you. We're going to collaborate on there, talk about things we know about, like ed tech. Let's talk about like what's hot, what's not, and then let's do an AI sort and see how it does. How does it categorize these different topics, and the audience can see in real time what that looks like. And then I'm going to put a Scott Nunes spin on there and show folks how to really get some time savings with this powerful tool. You ready, Casey?
I'm ready.
Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing here for a moment and pop out. Actually, oops, sorry. I need to keep sharing, just jump out of the presentation. So I'm back. So I'm going to go to Canva Home here. I've already got it preloaded, and I'm creating a blank whiteboard here. So typically I'd recommend you start with the template, something on the left here, and get it to fit uh, what you're talking about. But for our purposes, we're going to go full on blank. I'm going to come here to share. And because Casey's not in my team at Canva, I'm going to give her the permission to where anyone with the link can edit. I'll put that in the chat there. Just let me know if that went through, Casey. And then what I would do if I were working with a fresh group on this, I would give them the Canva Basics, give them a couple minutes to play around. Canva's simple, intuitive, and powerful, but we all need a little bit of playtime, a little bit of think time to really explore before we ideate and construct something. But we're going to, because Casey's an expert, I'm an expert with Canva, we're going to jump in and skip that explore phase and get right into the ideation phase. So what we're going to do is just start grabbing some different sticky notes here and then adding our thoughts, like what are some hot topics in education and why. So feel free to get going if you're chomping at the bit. Casey, I'm going to do something like AI, number one buzzword, okay? And add, I think it's important to demystify myths about AI. And you can see this is all part of the process, right? When it creates a new element, right? The sticky note, you saw Casey's go over mine. So you have to level set expectations. Like you're grabbing an element rather than just posting it, maybe you can select a previous sticky and hit control. Oops. See if it's going to do it again. Hit control D and make a copy, right? I can also talk about, AI will not replace teachers, but can enhance workflows and outcomes. Also talk about other tools. I can look at what my counterparts are doing. So I don't know. Casey's talking about Flip. What's going on there? It makes me think about Jamboard. Like, all right, I talked about Canva being a Jamboard replacement. So talk about that. We'll work for just a couple more minutes to generate some content so that you can see what's here. I can change this word. So I'm thinking back to Jamboard. I've been so Canva heavy. It has been a while. I did use it a bit instructionally as a coach and in the classroom. I really liked how you could expand the whiteboard infinite and include / embed other elements. So one thing I can do in Canva is I can go to the content library here and I can access about 129 million elements with Canva for districts. It's that robust. So if I needed, love dinosaurs, right? Maybe I just
that's not enough, Scott. I'll never find exactly.
You'll never find it.
129 million.
129 million. Yeah, if you can't do something with that many assets, you're in trouble. So for sake of time, we're going to pause there. We have a little bit there. So we have some Canva, we have some Jamboard, we have some Flip AI. What's going to happen? So I'm going to just back out slightly to make sure I grab all these stickies. So I'm going to grab them all and it's going to process this content. The AI in Canva will do that. I'll go to sort. So I mentioned you can sort by topic, by color, by name. In this case, I'm going to sort by topic. Okay, and it's sorted things for me. If we had more content, it would do a better job. What I might want to do is add some more details like, when I'm talking about AI, kind of build that out. But for sake of time, we didn't have a chance to do that. So let's kind of pretend we did, though. And then one
It
of
did.
the
It just
things
kind of lumped them all together, didn't it?
it did normally it does break it up more. So it's trying to make me be a little more humble. So that's okay. I'll eat some humble pie. It's good. Um, I'm used to Canva crushing it 100% of the time, and I'm gonna own that and say that's a Scott thing right there, rather than a Canva thing. I probably
It
did
could be a
something
Casey
wrong.
thing.
So we'll own it. We'll both take a little blame there. It's a Scott and Casey thing. Um, so what I'm going to do, let's say we've worked on this in like a grade alike, a PLC. It could also be something you do with your students. I'm going to play to my strengths as a former ELA teacher. Let's say I'm analyzing a novel like The Hunger Games. And so we're putting, instead of these sticky notes, we have characters from The Hunger Games and maybe some attributes about them. So, like, Katniss is the hero. We have Rue. What kind of character is Rue? What's going on with Cato? Let's talk about the history. What are some allegories, some symbols within there? We're constructing everything ahead of an essay, or maybe we're working through a formative assessment. Maybe we're just getting into chapter 18 where Rue dies. Sorry, spoiler alert. Probably should have prefaced that. But hopefully you've seen the movie or read the book by now. It's been out for a while, and it's a good one. So if you haven't, I haven't completely ruined it. Go check out that novel by Suzanne Collins. And let's say we've done all of that and we need to work on an outline for our essay or maybe a study guide. I love it for all of those things. Let's say we have all this great content here. We want to reflect on it in a way that makes more sense. One of the ways you can do that is to come over to Magic Switch, which we've just enhanced. We're constantly doing this. I could say transform into doc. I'll put doc again here. And it does take a little bit. I would give yourself about a minute or two once you've had it do that. And because we're Canva, we're going to specialize in making this a little more visual. So it's not just going to be super text heavy, it's going to put a graphic at the top with a header that's related. It's going to look for things that are repeated. So I'm hoping it's going to have AI a little bit more at the forefront, maybe have it bigger, and then things that occur a little less, they're going to be in bullet points or subheaders. And let's take a look. Let's open up that doc and see what this looks like. So this is fresh. We didn't do this before. I have no idea what I'm going to see. It's going to be a surprise. Is this going to be a Scott fail or Scott success? And so let's see. This is looking pretty good. And I'm seeing like some yellow and black here. I like that color scheme. I could always change it up if I wanted to as well, but this is nice. It gave me some great headers, some great sub material here. And then it gave me those bullet points I was looking for,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
enhanced workflows, outcomes with technology. It's talking about these things. That's so great. And I didn't have to do any of this. Now, of course, I could clean it up, but Canva's going to get you a majority of the way there. So if I needed a quick
Yeah.
recap, needed something to upload to my LMS after I gave a lesson or had a brainstorming session, maybe that kiddo who's out and takes up all your time at the beginning of class, would I miss Mr. Nunes? Here you go. That's up on the LMS. I have it as a Canva doc for you to review. And then they're not missing out, right? They can kind of jump in. Of course, they're missing out a little bit, but they're getting a good portion of what's there. And then because we are preparing students for the workforce and because visual communication is so important, I think it's something, it's in the 90 percentile somewhere in there of CEOs that are listing visual communication as a preferred skill on LinkedIn. But placates to that perfectly because we offer so many visual solutions under one simple, intuitive, powerful interface, right? I can
Yeah.
use Magic Switch again.
Can we wait before we do that? Because
Yeah,
I want to say a few things
yeah,
that just happened that I think are
yeah.
pretty cool. So some of you may be listening to a podcast format of this as well and not be able to see what's on the screen. Hop on over to YouTube and you'll be able to see what we're doing. But just briefly, we just wrote a few things on some sticky notes and they were pretty random. I wrote down some thoughts about what is Microsoft thinking and when it's concerning Flip, because now Flip is only available, I believe. I don't even have Microsoft, y'all. So but we lost our beloved tool. I don't like what Google is doing in some respects with the paid tiers. Jamboard's gone. I had some comments about that. And our sticky notes, like I said, were just like quick one sentence. It didn't take that information and put it in a doc. It took AI and rewrote it into paragraphs and gave it those subtitles. So for instance, the one at the top says, Google, innovating and complicating. Google has been a pioneer in technological advancements, continually developing tools to enhance productivity and collaboration. One such tool is Jamboard. And then it goes on to say, however, Google's recent move toward increasing paid tiers has sparked a debate on accessibility, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I didn't even read the whole paragraph, y'all. All I said was, what is Google thinking? Jamboard paid tiers making everything harder to access. And it turned it into that entire paragraph, which that's actually something I would use. That is a good paragraph that I could put into a blog post. I could put into this description for this YouTube video. So I just wanted to point that out because at first, when you mentioned this to me, I really thought it was going to take most of the content from the stickies, but it actually enhanced the content from the stickies and put it in here. It even wrote descriptions of what these different tools do without us having to add that. So I found that very powerful.
You're absolutely right. Where I see this being just a huge game changer is for districts where you have a new policy, you have a new procedure, you're working with your colleagues to break this down into applicable steps for all staff or for students, for parents. This is where the AI can enhance those steps. You kind of put, oh, we need this phase, this step, this thing, that thing, and it will assimilate that data and add a level of richness to it, right? I love that heading. So buzzworthy. Google innovating and complicating. Ooh, this juxtaposition here as an ELA teacher. I would showcase something like this to my students and be like, wow, this is such a juicy, buzzworthy title. What can we do for Hunger Games or Harry Potter or Romeo and Juliet? And see what the AI comes up with and
Yeah.
how can
Yeah.
we maybe
Hey,
learn from that.
I need a screenshot of this because I think I have some blog post titles sitting right here that I need to steal. So I know I could use pretty much every one of those and write something about it. So
Yes, you're absolutely right. And thanks for reminding me too that we have some non-visual listeners that may be just listening in on the podcast. So I'll try and do a better job of being a little more descriptive verbally with kind of what's going on screen here. So once you have a document like this, you can also convert it into a presentation. And the reason why I like this workflow as opposed to going straight into a Canva presentation is because the AI adds and segments these topics and subtopics in such a way that play well into the AI that converts any kind of document into a presentation. And so just like there was this massive ad, I'll call it, like positive ad into the quality of the output, you're going to get that in this way, going from a doc that's very text heavy, but broken up in a very systematic way. It's going to take that systemization and now beatify it with graphics. Now, the graphics are going to be simple because they're quick, they're AI generated. You're going to see it's going to take about 30 seconds. And there's an option
so
under Magic Switch. Go ahead.
we're gonna magic switch a magic switch.
We're going to Magic Switch and Magic Switch. We're switching it up all
That is
across the
super
board.
cool.
Yeah, we're shaking up learning right here live.
You heard it
um,
here, folks.
yes, yes. And it gives you several different template styles. If you do have a brand guide, set up a brand kit, rather, it will play into that. That's nice, and that's on the newer end as well. I'm not going to do that for this though. I am going to go to a branded option, but let's just see what it looks like. I did really like this yellow option. Going to hit create my presentation and kind of talk a little bit while it's doing. It takes about 30 seconds, sometimes faster, sometimes a little slower based upon your connection and how much information's there. So if I have a lot of information, it's obviously going to take a bit longer. But if I have just some bullet points and a few headers, it's going to be pretty quick. And so what's on the screen is it kicked out 10 different slides. And I'm going to quickly just kind of go through. They're very simplistic, but there are visuals on there. It has a nice heading graphic on there. It has a header, and then it has the accompanying paragraph. And I could further curtail this using AI. I could grab something like some of this text and I could use Magic Write and tell it to make it more succinct. I can tell it to expand on that. If I wanted to use AI a little bit more to enhance the outcome of this. But what I really like is coming over to design and then styles. And this allows me to pick either one of the templated color palettes from within Canva, something like blue and black and gray color scheme, and I can apply it to just one page to see how it looks. I can then instantly apply it to all of their other pages. So in seconds, now everything in that multimedia slide presentation is all black, white, and blue per this color scheme. Or I can use the great Canva colors, this purple, black, white, and teal, and apply that to all pages in a way that makes sense for me and my organization. I can change the fonts as well so that they're brand approved fonts, which is really nice. So, from an admin perspective and from a PR and communications perspective, right, you may hear from them like, hey, this is off brand. Why'd you use the wrong Mustang logo? We need to use this one. This helps keep everybody on message, on tone, and on voice in a way that makes sense. It's not a heavy lift anymore for teachers, educators, students to do that. You can now create something that's very professional, very high end, very informative in a matter of minutes to kind of showcase the benefits of this a little bit. I want to showcase a quick case study that we did with FedEx across that organization of, I'm trying to think, it says 1,400 teams, but I think they have like a huge number of people that work with them. I can't remember how many. I want to say here it is. It says FedEx has boomed into business with over 500,000 team members. So huge. Think about like if you're a large district, I'm just going to name one like LAUSD, right? You have 500,000 plus different individuals you're serving. Well, in this business, they've experienced a reduction of 77% when it comes to brand review times and increasing design output. It's following workflows like this. I'm not seeing this a lot in education yet. So I definitely do differentiate between business and education. This is one of those ways where business can positively influence education right here. And typically, it would take FedEx days to create a series of assets, going from a whiteboard session to creating a doc to send to upper management to creating a presentation to send and share with all of their stakeholders across hundreds of designs. And now, instead of it taking days, it's taking minutes to hours. So you can reinvest that time, just like I talked about with my essay situation, and develop even more student interest, even more student outcomes, and get your life back a little bit because the struggle is real, as they used to say in education. We're still really struggling in a post-COVID world, or what calling a post-COVID world. Who knows? We're still figuring things out. Things are a
No,
little topsy-turvy.
I'll be the first to say, I've used Canva for almost everything you find on Shake Up Learning, any kind of image or anything over the years. Of course, it kind of started just as that image creation tool and it's morphed into so much more. But I regularly have at least 10 tabs open that are just Canva projects that I'm working on. And looking at this, I wanted to even come back and revisit this again because this whole process, this little workflow that we just went through was pretty eye-opening. I'm having more ideas, Scott, because one, we went
Yeah.
from a whiteboard, which generally I could be brainstorming just on my own. I might have different ideas, different stickies. I
Mhm.
could just be doing that. But this is generally a collaborative piece. So taking some of those collaborative activities, whether we are doing that as a team and we're coming back for back to school and we're planning some lessons together with our teams, or we are even writing curriculum, or whatever it is, we might be planning the field trip. We could be doing all kinds of
Mhm.
things, and teachers using this as well as students using this. But I love that we're taking this collaborative tool that then morphs into this wonderful document to really flesh it out into something that saves us time, go make our tweaks on the things that make sense and don't make sense. And then when we need that presentation for the stakeholders or for our classroom, we're turning this into a lesson or we're turning this into some type of curriculum, that we can just keep building from there. Because this really, you showed this to me before we started and I understood what it did, but I think really looking at this now, and I was making some notes because I want to go back and try this on some of the things that I'm working on. I think this looks like a tiny little update that can have a huge impact.
I'm with you 100%. Just in my own personal workflow and in my team's workflow, we do just this. Whenever we're connecting, we're using this feature like crazy internally. So I've seen the benefits. It's saved us so much time. And to your point, it goes beyond just a simple collaborative whiteboard. Yes, there's that aspect, but you can also add in a ton of visualizations, which we didn't even do. I just added in a dinosaur. You can use it with that as well. Maybe have it categorize, with those, or you correlate a color with an image. There is so much. And this can be used across content areas. For example, I'm not a math person, but I know enough to be dangerous. So you could have students prepare for their summative exam with something like, okay, let's work in small groups and add to this visual whiteboard. And so you have one group that's working on examples and how you factor. You have another one that shows how you graph different uh, different things like sine, cosine. What's a parabola look like? And then you have different. Maybe if we're talking geometry, you're talking about proofs. My most hated thing. I struggled with proofs in geometry.
Oh, I
Maybe if
loved
I
proofs.
had.
I was one of
Oh, it
those
took.
weird people who love geometry.
Oh, I love geometry. Hate the proofs. Couldn't do it. Could not remember those proofs exactly. My teacher, bless her, she was so precise. Like I remember being off like a word or two, and I got the whole proof wrong. Like no, no. I tried. I really tried. I studied forever and ever and ever. But maybe if I had it in a cool Canva whiteboard that I converted to a study guide in the doc, maybe if
That's
I
what was
had to
missing.
present back to my peers on that, that would help, right? I think some of the research around like teaching and visualizations, it's a little iffy, I hear from subject matter experts. But I think there's an overwhelming consensus that having visuals in what you do enhances interest and enhances outcomes because of that increased interest. Now, there isn't the research to support that. So report back on that and let me know if you're in that camp. If there is research, find me on social media. Please, please, please share because I want to learn. But that is my personal sense there. And I'm seeing that in the school districts I work with that pick this up. Nobody said like, "Hey, Scott, we're going to go back to using this other thing." They're like, "No,
Yeah.
we're using this, and we're doing all kinds of things." And as you, like Casey's doing on the fly, learning other ways to use this simple and effective tool, and switcher upper magic. I don't have a cool name for it yet, but this advanced AI workflow, we'll call it that. That
Yeah.
sounds pretty
Yeah.
professional.
No, and I know we got to move on because we are only one tip
One
in.
in.
We've just kept going. But yeah, I think there is so much in this, and no matter what you are using it for. So but yeah, I totally agree with you, Scott. And I think there's so many things that are happening. And because this is the back to school season, I had to mention the post-it notes that come out at every staff meeting, professional development training, everything that those leaders love to do during that time. Okay, we're all going to brainstorm, or we're all going to write, something on a sticky and use this color for this and this color for this. This is the perfect time to test the waters out with using a digital tool like this, because then it's already stored and then you can organize it. You can do some of these other things. And so if you're listening and that you are in one of those positions and you've got your bucket full of sticky notes ready already for back to school, think about this.
Absolutely. And that's a great place to pivot on. I have queued up on the screen here one of our new features. I'm going to just rewind this video that I have here and let it play out. One of the things you can quickly do is you don't have to go out of your presentation now to link to another Canva document. So let's say you have a great presentation or a little infographic you've created, maybe a doc, kind of dovetailing with what we did. Maybe you created a doc and now you want that outline, that doc, to be in this presentation that you just created. Well, you can just go into Canva, click on the text, and hit the little link button. And instead of putting an exact hyperlink, you can look for those recent docs and just link to them there. And when I say docs in this context, I mean any kind of file format that's in Canva. So it can be a video, an image you've uploaded, it can be an infographic, or it can be a Canva doc. How might you see this like being used to advance your workflow a little bit, Casey?
Oh, for linking, for sure,
For
because especially because you're showing a presentation right now, and I always have tons of links in my presentation, but I create a lot of templates in Canva. And so that I could see that I would call this internal linking, right? We're
yes.
Canva to Canva. We're linking to those, just to clarify if anyone's getting confused, because the links that we share are often, pointing someone outside, but he's talking about being able to share those files. And I think those template links for me, like when I'm doing I actually have a session, it's called 30 plus ways to use Canva templates in your classroom, that those templates could be right there embedded in the presentation.
And additionally, what you can do is you can have that link as just like the standard link where you click on the text and then it takes you to that item, or you can have it embed within the presentation as well. So if you're looking to bring in a visual or hyperlink, you can use the embed feature in there as well, which is pretty nice. Okay. Another thing you can do, kind of back to whiteboards, is you can expand social media designs to whiteboards, but it doesn't have to be just social media design. So I picked this one because a lot of folks are doing things on social media, especially looking for back to school things. Either you're gathering information or you're looking to share out all the great ideas you have. And so this is a quick, simple way to do that. But you could take any sort of whiteboard or item and expand to a whiteboard. I like doing that with my presentations too. So when I'm presenting, maybe I'm working with a group of teachers, a group of students, and want to kind of just jump in and build on something. Oh, let me either make a copy of that slide I'm on, or create a new one, or use the one I'm on, expand to a whiteboard, and it's going to add it right in that presentation as well if
That
you
was
do
my
choose to
question. Does
use
it
it.
stay in the same, like if it's a
Yeah,
presentation, is it just a whiteboard on that one slide in that presentation, or does it go to all of them?
yeah. So let me grab our little presentation here. And so I've gone back to that presentation we created earlier. I'm going to go to slide 5 here and then expand to whiteboard. And now that slide is its own whiteboard. And so you can see all this space around. I can start adding stickies um,
Does it look different
all
in the
around this
grid?
if I wanted. When you say the grid, what?
When you click on the little squares down at the bottom to see all the slides together, does it? Well, it's already
No, it
looking
should just
different.
be that icon,
Okay,
but it's
it
going to
does
look a
look.
little different as you
Yeah.
add the
Okay.
stickies and things.
Yeah. Ah, I like that.
Yeah.
That is great for lessons.
Yes. And then that learning experience is encapsulated right within that presentation. And it just helps further recall when you're going back and revisiting content. So that's a pro move
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, when you're stopping, okay, we're going to stop here. We're going to ask some questions. We're going to,
Hmm.
do a check for understanding, whatever it is. And yeah, we're going to transform this one slide into a whiteboard, and here are the directions. They're right there on the presentation, all ready to go. Yep, I love it.
You could even run a quick informal poll like, hey, do you think it's this or that? Or similar to this game I heard about this weekend called Wavelengths. Like, what's it on a wavelength? How many Americans are concerned about X topic, whatever the topic is? Maybe about AI in education, right? How many think it'll replace teachers? What percentage of Americans? And then people put their different values in, and then you can use AI sort to sort those values. If you then convert it into a doc, then you have it in an elongated visual format, and
Yeah,
then
you
you
just
can
blew my
present
mind. We
on
just
it.
did everything in one lesson. We just did everything we've learned so far. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because whatever is on that slide too, I mean, could still be the template from a whiteboard, style like T chart. Like you said, like kids can be moving objects around. It can make it turn that presentation into the interactive piece. It wouldn't have to be separate. And I think sometimes that gets annoying when you're having to open multiple tabs. Okay, now go back into Google Classroom and open this other thing up, that it would be right there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice just having things in one spot, right? That leads me to this next one. How do you differentiate some of that content for your learners? So, I can think to our friend Matt Miller would like this next feature, which is translating templates, right? He's a Spanish teacher. And so if he has something in English or something in Spanish, he can quickly translate from one language to another. Is it perfect? Nope. But that's where the human element comes in, right? So use Canva as a tool to enhance outcomes for learnings. It's not going to replace the individuals with these skills, but it can help you get a good portion of the way through. Where this is really nice as well is if you have a student that comes into your classroom and their language is supported, we support, I don't want to misspeak. I'm going to just say a lot. I want to say, but don't quote me. I want to say it's like 90 plus. There's some different supports across different products, and I can't remember exactly what it is for this specific translation feature. But I feel very comfortable saying 90 plus on here. And so if we support that language, let's say you have a student from the Philippines or from Haiti that's, is literate in those home languages, and they need to understand some colors, some objects, some context of what's going on. This can be an aid. It's not perfect, but it can help mitigate some of the supports that don't typically exist in a classroom. And so this is something I would have used with my emerging learners in my standard ELA classroom. I would use a tool like this. Can you see this being used in other ways?
Yeah, well, and I think for years, we've gotten pretty creative with how we use the different translators out there, and every foreign language teacher will always say, it's not perfect, but it's
Right.
also something that may be further steps ahead where someone could go correct it, and you could turn it into an assignment where the student can find the errors
Absolutely.
and fix that. I'm looking. Do I have this yet? Do I have
Yeah.
this feature yet? I do.
Yeah.
And how
Anybody
do we
with
find it?
Canva. So this has been out for a while. Let me just pop out and I'm going to just go back to our presentation
Okay.
um, that we created. So I'm going to go into a slide here, and then it's going to be on the left hand side. So if you're on, you may not have this if you have Canva free. So something to point out, Canva for Education is free, Canva for Districts is free, but they're not the same product as Canva free. So you may not have translation on there, but if you have Canva for Education, you have Pro, which means you're paying for a business license, um, which you don't need that if you're in education. You get all of the, or what I would label as all of the applicable education premium features. You get that in Canva for districts. Now, it's not apples to apples. There are some features that aren't in Canva for districts, but I've never had a district come back and say, hey, we really need those features, because that tool is really designed for the business environment versus the education. And what you can do, so I have this slide here. I've selected slide 4. I can say, translate this current page, speak conversational Portuguese and Spanish. So I'm going to select Portuguese here. I'm going to say, translate this page on AI in education. What I can also do is select different bodies of text. So let's say I just need, well, this is grouped all as one. If it were ungrouped, let's ungroup it. Then I could select just the title, or I could select just the body of the text. But I'm going to select just the title, translate it into Portuguese. This one's a little tricky. I think it gravitates a little more towards um, Brazilian Portuguese here versus mainland Portuguese, which is what I speak. It did something a little funky with the AI. It's not perfect. It reversed AI. I don't know why. It probably thought it was a different word. Um, but it did a pretty good job with that, talking about AI in education, um, and how to sort of prepare for that. I can even have it do multiple pages. So I can say translate pages and select all of the pages manually from the drop down. So I could have it do pages 1 and 2, for example, and page 5, and then hit translate. It's going to take about 15 to 30 seconds unless you're translating a ton of information, and it will keep the original and give you the translated text. So you can see and you can go back and forth. And as an instructional tool, this is great because you can show how close it is sometimes and how it's a little different, like how it messed up on AI the other time, right? And we're continuing to get better at that, of course, but it is good to note. And where the time saving is for a district is, think about all the translators you're employing. They could translate more documents more quickly with something like this. And then they could parcel out these different slides into different documents. So you can have an English version, a Portuguese version, um, a Spanish version, a Haitian version, right? And go on and on with all the different languages and cultures that we support within a district.
Yeah, that's cool. I did. find it. I had to go to apps and search for it, but it was there. So if
So
someone's
let's talk about that a little
yeah,
bit. Okay, so the difference in the user interface, if you have a Canva for Districts account, then you will have experienced our glow up, um, which is just the change in the user interface. If you
okay.
have a different version, so if you have free, so Canva free, not just a free version of Canva, but the version that's called Canva free or pro or an individual educator account. So you have Canva for education, but it's not Canva for districts, which encapsulates everybody within the organization. That will be delayed, and we're just gradually
Okay.
rolling out to users on that. We did have a window where like the first 2 million people to click a little
Yeah.
button after our event Canva Create got that glow up. If you weren't one of those, you'll have to wait a little bit longer. But good
Okay.
news, it's coming.
Okay. Awesome.
So
Yeah. So just in case anybody looks at it like I did and you're looking for translate, you can find it under apps. And it other than that, it looks exactly like what Scott was using. So I did have access to it.
yeah, good call out. Thank you, Casey. Um, I'm going to gloss over this one real quick, but in Magic Write, which is our AI equivalent of like Chat GPT, you put in a written prompt like give me a lesson plan on grade 8, um, Common Core State Standard, writing 1 on the Hunger Games, Chapter 18, and give me 3 hands-on activities. Boom, it'll spit it out. Well, let's say I don't like the results. What would happen in the past would be that prompt's gone. Well, now you can find those previous prompts there. So it helps you out a little bit. So keep that in mind. Um, and this next section is all about engaging your audience with interactivity. So it's focusing a lot on things related to graphs, charts, things you would use to display data, showcase data. As we know, data is king, right? Where no matter what your role is in education, data is going to be important, whether you're showcasing student growth, student outcomes, maybe you're showing stats like in a social science arena where I've seen this done well. I'm going to replay this graphic that's on the screen for a little bit. It's showing audience demographics based upon countries across years, and it's going to just change a little bit over the years when you hit play. You can now do these types of visualizations where data is changing across time. For example, I've seen a really good example of this, like who are the wealthiest people in the world. It started earlier in the 90s. It showed Bill Gates as one of the top people, and the visual display shows him rising through the ranks and then falling to the ranks of Jeff Bezos, and then Jeff Bezos goes down and Elon Musk goes up. And so you could do this for all kinds of different things. Like we talked about math a little bit earlier. This is a mathematician's dream right here. And a student's dream. I struggled with math, but when there was a great visual to accompany what I was seeing, because I'd get overwhelmed by all of the text, this would help me. And then also seeing the real world relevance. Here's how we use this mathematical concept is right here. That's great. So, uh, again, for students, great for historical data, such as the number of users on social media platforms, and they could present their findings. That's a great way to sort of test, let them play with things before they apply it to something a little more on the instructional and academic side.
Yeah, I love this, and it does make it in a beautiful visual that you can connect to your CSV file, you can connect it to your Google Sheets or your Excel file and put that data right in there. So, yeah, like you said, data is part of everything we do these days. Everybody's got to know how to deal with data. And I just sat through a presentation this weekend that had some really old PowerPoint slides and some data in it. I'm thinking, oh, if they were only in the 21st century, they would have known how to do this. So
And guess what? If you have something like that, like I took over for a very seasoned veteran teacher who had lots of great things and PowerPoints, but they were tired, they were old. The visualizations were very poor, but the content was great. If I had been using Canva at that time, I would just pull it into Canva and then I could use like these data pieces, these visualizations to really enhance that. And that would be a good portion of the way there. And then I could use like the brand kits and the colors and beatify it like that, without much of a lift on my part, just really letting Canva do the heavy lifting. So that's the key takeaway. If you're going to take away anything, it's this: let Canva help you do the work, right? Take one of these pieces and apply it to what you're already doing, right? You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just enhance what you're doing a little bit, and you're going to get your time back. And you can reinvest that into learning more, getting even more time back, or enhancing those student outcomes, or maybe just take a nap. Sometimes we just need a little break. Um, Continuing with interactivity, when we look at charts, I learned this from Guy Kawasaki. He's our chief evangelist officer. When you're displaying data, let me jump further in this. It can be a little overwhelming. You have all these great visuals. We're showing a bar graph or a series of bar graphs on the screen. But what you can do in Canva now is you can click on a certain piece of data. Maybe I'll speak to World War II just because I did more of that in my ELA classroom. uh, Maybe you're highlighting the casualties. I know it's a little dark, forgive me. It's just what I know. In a particular area or a particular country, it can mute the other colors to really highlight what's important and what you're talking about. And so this is a great way to draw folks into the data you're talking about and keep that effect of like over visualization, and muddying the waters of happening. You can keep things very clear by doing that, but still have the richness of the data. Or I really like it for teacher observations. Like if I were tracking certain standards, okay, they hit these metrics. 7 out of 10 classrooms we observed this afternoon displayed this. They have the standards on the board, or they were in this quadrant for their teaching. Oh, they were really activating the 4 C's. They were all constructing and you know um, being creative and collaborating and doing all the things. Right, I could showcase that through the data and maybe pick on a certain site or a certain classroom and really showcase those outcomes. Oop, I jumped one. Bubble plots. I love this one, right? If you're showcasing a bunch of statistical data, maybe you're working in psychology or something, or you're teaching a stats class, this is particularly useful. Or again, if you're showcasing some historical data, that's kind of all over the place. This is a great use to really simplify that complex information and illustrate patterns. What we're really looking for with this type of format or patterns, what sorts of trends. Maybe we're talking about fashion in the 90s and, you know, coupling it with how some of those trends are coming back, the parachute pants, the cargo pants, the Jinko jeans, those big things, and talk about it blowing up all over again. Yeah, so it gives you some nice variables to compare things like population, income, life expectancy for some examples for students as well. And this one is much requested. So we at the end of the year, which we just passed, but we can gear up for this next year already. When students leave our classrooms and graduate and leave what happens to their stuff? Well, now we have a guide center for that. So just search up Canva Help Center Guide and graduation student workflow, and it'll come up, and you'll be able to ensure that their content isn't lost in the progression to their next endeavors. And so that's directly from this community, just asking for it. And I know Casey has some questions about products and how things work. If you have any product requests, two things. If you don't have Canva for districts yet, get it, because you'll get a district engagement advocate like myself that you can share these requests with, and we can help um, engage with our engineering and product teams and make those requests and really build a strong case for the how and why these features need to come into play in the education version. What you can also do, or if you're an individual user, maybe your district or school isn't quite ready yet, even though Canva for education for districts are both free with premium content, is you can just go on Twitter/X and tag Canva EDU or Canva on Instagram and say, hey, I'd like this feature for this reason. Here's how it's going to help and revolutionize uh, what I do. Any questions there? Because I know you have some burning ones, Casey.
No, I like this. Of course, this reminds us of Google Takeout, but this is a good problem to have. This means we have more users who are in there and actually creating things that they want to keep. So if you have those graduating seniors and they've created in Canva, there is a process now where they can I'm assuming get this moved into probably a personal account after they're
Exactly.
leaving the district account. So that is really great to know. Yeah, I probably could have created a whole second session, Scott, based on my annoying questions about Canva. So um, just as background, I have mentioned I've been a long time user. Now, my use of Canva has been pretty narrow in terms of how I've used it, but I'm excited to see where we are going with this in the classroom. So you and I spoke, was that last year that we did a similar, it may have been more than
Yes.
a year ago, that we did this, and we were talking a lot about the magic right and the magic AI pieces that were coming in, and at that point they were more for teachers than they were for students. Is that still the case? What does a student have access in terms of some of the magic AI stuff?
That's a great question. With Canva for districts, one of the additional benefits is that you can set granular permission. So if you want students to access the AI features, that's what your school and district is going to have to gravitate towards. And it's because a lot of those AI features that you're naming, like Magic Write, Magic Design, and others encapsulated in that library, the way they function is very similar to like Chat GPT and things like that. So it is using some data. So it's for 13 and over only. Now, that's not all of the AI features, but those that are generative in nature. And so you have to be mindful of that as well. Another reason why it's great to get on the district product, so you're being COPA FERPA compliant, safe, you're able to employ those safeguards. Canva for Education is COPA FERPA compliant as well, the individual product. But the paid pro version and the free version are not. And so a lot of folks don't realize that by not going for the Canva for Education version or Canva for districts, you're falling out of compliance. And we want you on the safest version. And those two are free. So it's at no cost to you or the district.
Very good. Very good to know. Okay, so coming back to some of my annoying questions,
Yeah.
I I would still say majority of my presentations are still in Google Slides. I, of course, love how much more beautiful they are when I create them in Canva. But there are a few things that take me longer in Canva. And for the most part, I would say and agree with what you said. Canva is a tremendous time saver for me in other respects. But for presentations, it I'm getting better. Part of it was a learning curve and getting, kind of getting my own rhythm and workflow down. But the thing that I am missing is like the ability to, when I am in presentation mode, to have things appear. I'm going to use bullets as the example because that's the
Hmm.
most common, but it might just be different elements that I want to appear at different times instead of them being there all at once. And the only way to do that is kind of a workaround. And it actually means I have to create about 8 more extra slides to do what I want it to do. So I have these slide decks that have like 200 slides in them, not because they're really 200, but just because I'm working around so that I have some kind of appearance as I'm speaking and sharing things in a slower way.
Yeah, so what you're describing is definitely something where we haven't streamlined the workflow on that yet, to your point. But if it's not on the roadmap, you can be sure I'm going to ask for it now because we need to get you over to the Canvas side of things and any remaining users. So what you're describing is like on click or like pass through to like the next part of the slide, it'll throw up an additional bullet. Right now, the only way to do that is to either auto like do the different timings on those elements. Like you set one item to come in at the start of the slide and another one to come at the end, and maybe one like 5 seconds in. And even that, while better, still not quite what you need. What you're asking for is that upon click, we can just throw out the next bullet or the next header or subheader, whatever's on there, and set up an order of operations like some other programs have. And
Yeah.
so
I mean, it
that's
could even be the
something.
graphics that like I want to reveal, piece by
Mm,
piece and into, as things evolve and grow. And so that's definitely at the top of my request list when it comes to presentations. The other thing I have trouble with presentations is video. So in Google Slides, super easy for me to go grab a YouTube clip. And of course, I don't have to, I used to have to go manually clip things. Oh, think about how much time it used to take
yeah.
me to do things. And, but now in Google Slides, you can have it just play, hey, I just need this 12 seconds right here, and I'm going to use that. And you can set it up on click. But what I discovered when I really had something that I needed a lot of video in trying to do a presentation in Canva was I needed to go to the app. There's a little YouTube app, and I would search.
Hmm.
It didn't find all the videos, even when I had the full link. Like it wasn't finding everything. It just wasn't working actually. So I don't know if other people have run into that, but that's kind of the other thing. Cause I do have some video heavy kinds of presentations that I do sometimes for impact. Sometimes it's just easier information than trying to speak is to show you what this looks like.
Yeah, I hope that that's something that has been remediated or will be soon. I know with my experience with what you're talking about, to like grab a full video and to trim it down, that is a little more challenging in Canva, specifically from that platform from YouTube. We focused a little bit more on innate video. So um, that may be something where just instructionally, if I really need to do that, I might pop out if I really did want that. And that's something I'm able to take back to the team. Like this kind of conversation, it's not a bad thing. I think it's Brene Brown that says clarity is kind. Like having that clarity and that call out, right? The intentionality is absolutely positive. Like you just need this to work in this way, and it's going to have this positive outcome for you and obviously others. Like if we can do it, that would just further enhance your
Oh, for
workflow
sure.
and keep you in Canva without the need to go out. We don't want that.
Well,
We're here
and
to
think about
streamline that.
how many YouTube videos are used now in lessons,
Hmm.
So I'm sure that for teachers that might be and that maybe somebody out there has discovered a better solution, but I've struggled with it. I think my last question, and I did ask you this ahead of time, but I've had installed on my laptop and my desktop the desktop app version of Canva. It came out, I don't know, a few years ago. And I go back and forth between the app and then just running it through the browser. And I have issues kind of with both, mostly because I run too many things at once, Scott. It's a Casey
Hmm.
problem, not really a Canva problem. But I just have noticed when I use the app and keep the app open, it doesn't really seem to refresh. So, what's your recommendation? Do we use the app or do we use the browser?
So I always prefer the browser. Part of that is just me. That's how I work because, like you, I travel a bit. I'm always on the go. And so I may be using Canva on my cell phone. I may be using Canva on my laptop or a tablet. And I like things to look and feel the same. So I just use the browser version. That's my personal preference. What I do recommend is if, maybe you are similar to me and you need things for like offline, you just need it for whatever reason. I'd maybe start with the browser version and then take it to the desktop version, like only use it kind of as needed. We are investing in that more. And I know feature requests, I can't say when and if it's coming out and that sort of thing, but there's a lot of buzz about getting more and more content offline. And this is just Scott speaking. This isn't Canva Scott, not Canva official, but logic would dictate that if we were able to do that, the best sort of vehicle to do more offline work would be through an application, obviously, because you can't use a browser. So that would be something to
Yeah.
kind of think about there.
Okay. All right. Well, I knew I needed to go to the expert who's teaching me what. So, thank you, Scott. I feel like we probably could have talked about this all day, and I know we probably talked a lot longer than we intended, but I appreciate you so much, your time and your general dedication to helping teachers. So, I know so many people will enjoy this and look forward to what else is coming because Canva is always coming out with something new.
Thanks so much for this great opportunity, Casey. Appreciate you, friend.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Scott. And if anybody wants to reach out to you, how should they do that?
Yeah, I would say social media is best at Mr. Nunes Teach. And then if you are looking to bring a district in or a school, just reach out on social media to me directly would be one way, or probably the fastest way is just to go to canva.com/education and fill out our application. So I do support a different segment of the business. So it may not, like if you're wanting to work with me, it necessarily wouldn't happen. Our whole team of district engagement advocates, like I said earlier, are great. They've all got some skin in the game in one way or another. And so you're going to be in good hands regardless of who you get. And if you have questions too, we have a great community Facebook group. So I would join that and consider joining our Canvassador program, which is the Canva Ambassador program.
And I think it's worth mentioning too, because we didn't really even get into all of the resource section that's there for education. When you go to canva.com/education, and I've done entire podcast episodes just digging into the resources there. So
Mm-hmm.
there is so much there. There's so many free templates. There's free training. There's lots of great stuff there. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but I know there's just a tremendous amount of resources to support everybody online.
Yeah, I would add Canva's Design School. So if you search that up, that's another helpful resource. And you mentioned education templates. There's over 80,000 education specific templates. So put in your grade, your field, and we didn't get to talk about it, but flip classroom assignment for y'all: explore Canva lessons. Those are going to be powerful, and give us
They're so
feedback.
cool.
Let us know how we can enhance those.
Okay. And we may have more coming, y'all. I think I could do like an entire series of Canva episodes and videos. So thank you, Scott. We'll put links to everything below the video and in the podcast show notes. But we appreciate your time, and we'll catch you next time.
All right. Thanks so much.
If you like this tip, please ring the bell and subscribe so that you get notified when new tips come out each week. And if you haven't already, hop on over to shakeuplearning.com and check out all the free resources we have there. Bye, y'all.